Picture this. A young boy takes the throne at the tender age of 9, reigns for a hot minute, and dies at 18 without leaving much of a mark on the world. Sounds like the perfect recipe for historical obscurity, right? Well, that's exactly what happened to Tutankhamun, better known today as King Tut, the pharaoh who went from being a nobody to the most famous Egyptian king ever, all thanks to his forgotten tomb. Let's be real. King Tut wasn't exactly breaking records or inspiring epic poetry during his reign. He wasn't the Cleopatra of his time or Ramses flexing his muscles with grand monuments. Nope, Tut was born into a royal family tree that looked more like a pretzel thanks to a little too much inbreeding. His dad, the heretic pharaoh Akhenaten, stirred up drama by trying to cancel all the Egyptian gods except one, Aten, the sun god. He even had the names of the old gods, especially Amun, erased from monuments, leaving the Egyptians furious and bewildered. So, when little Tutankhaten, yep, that was his original name, inherited the throne after Daddy Dearest's death, he was kind of left to clean up the mess. His advisors quickly ditched Aten, moved the capital back to Thebes, and changed his name to Tutankhamun, a signal that the good old Egyptian gods were back in business. But did this make Tut famous in his lifetime? Absolutely not. Tut ruled for about 10 years, but let's be honest. He was basically a puppet ruler, with advisors pulling the strings. Then, he died suddenly, probably from a leg injury, or maybe malaria, or, who knows, bad luck from being the product of royal inbreeding? Either way, his reign ended just as uneventfully as it began. After his death, Tut was practically wiped from history. His successors didn't care much for Tut or his father's controversial reign. Eager to distance themselves from Akhenaten's religious upheaval, they erased much of his memory. While Tut wasn't a major target, his name faded into obscurity for centuries, until the discovery of his tomb turned him into the most famous pharaoh of all time. But here's where it gets deliciously ironic. Because he was so insignificant, no one bothered looking for his tomb. While all the other grand pharaohs' tombs were plundered by ancient grave robbers, Tut's tomb remained untouched, buried under debris and rubble. It was as if the ancient world had said, who cares? And that, my friends, was the best thing that ever happened to King Tut. Fast forward to 1922, and that's when everything changed. British archaeologist Howard Carter stumbled upon a small, cramped tomb in the Valley of the Kings, definitely not fit for a king. But guess whose tomb it was? Our boy Tut's. Inside, Carter discovered over 5,000 artifacts, from golden treasures to chariots to the iconic golden death mask. The world was shook. Tutankhamun, the boy king no one remembered, suddenly became the most famous pharaoh in history. Here's the kicker. The only reason Tut's tomb was perfectly preserved was because he was so irrelevant that grave robbers didn't even bother. His small, undecorated tomb went unnoticed for over 3,000 years because no one thought to look for it. The forgotten king had become the most celebrated pharaoh of all time simply because his tomb was spared the plundering that other, more important rulers faced. Let's be real. King Tut is more famous for his tomb than his contribution to Egypt. We don't know much about his reign other than the fact that he tried to undo his dad's mess, and even that didn't fully succeed. His fame today isn't because of his policies or his achievements. It's because his tomb was found in pristine condition, packed to the brim with treasure. King Tut is a celebrity for what was buried with him, not for what he did during his reign. Talk about irony. So, here we are today. Nearly 100 years after the discovery of his tomb, King Tut has become a global superstar. His treasures have toured the world, his death mask is iconic, and he's probably more famous than most rulers in world history. But let's not forget, he wasn't exactly setting the ancient world on fire during his lifetime. King Tut's story is the ultimate tale of going from literally nobody to somebody, all thanks to being forgotten.